Well, hello and welcome to another installment of Tennessee Leaders, and we're very privileged today to have with us Chris Claybrook, who is Executive Vice President for Commercial Lending for Regions Bank for Middle Tennessee and Kentucky. Chris, thank you for being with us
Dean, it's
today.
a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure's ours, and thank you so much for speaking with the class today. That was outstanding. Such a great interaction. We had a lot of questions.
Yes, we did. Everybody stayed awake. We didn't lose anybody, so it was great. We had a lot of fun.
Well, I appreciate your candor and your insights. Thought we'd start today with a question that you spoke to in class a little bit, with regard to taking initiative that students need to, as they enter the workforce, whether they're working in an internship position or in a permanent position, to, as you put it, really raise their hand for those opportunities that they have. Could you talk to us a little bit?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. And really the background on that was, as we talked about, my career and as I've seen others, I think it's so important as a person sees a position that they're interested in, they need to make that known. So often, we may just assume, hey, I'm doing a great job. People will notice, and people do notice when you're doing a great job, but also it's so important to raise your hand and say, that's a position that I'm interested in, and make sure that those who are in a position of influence that could help you either get the job or get you ready for the job, I think you've got to let them know. And furthermore, the other point there is sometimes you raise your hand, and I've certainly experienced this myself. You may raise your hand and someone may say, look, you're doing a great job, but just understand that this position has a certain skill set, and while you may possess some of those skills, you do have some gaps, and so it's important for those people to talk to you about the gaps, be open to listening to what those gaps are,
Yes.
and ask for help. Ask for somebody, whether it's a mentor or whomever, to really help you with those gaps so that you can be more ready for that position when it comes around again.
It's great advice, and it is that initiative to really not take it for granted that someone knows that you're willing and able, but to let them know and remind them that that you're available, that you have that you're incented, that you feel empowered to go and speak with them.
Yes, everybody wants to have an employee that really has a lot of initiative there, and so by raising your hand, you're really demonstrating that.
Yeah, I just thought that was a great way to put it. So thank you for sharing that with the students today. I think as students come in, they're moving in this transition, and I think it's hard sometimes for them to realize that we've all been there, with those same doubts and those same hesitancy or what to ask those questions, and to enter that workforce with an honesty and an openness that I think employers always appreciate. As they do that, as they kind of come into, and we could use banking and Regions as an example, what are those things that you like to see from young folks, perhaps in their first job or their first experience, that they're coming out of school, they have those basic skill sets that you assume, in most cases rightfully so, are there. What are you looking for from those candidates?
Yeah, when somebody's interviewing, and whether it's with a bank or any company out there, the one thing you want to do is differentiate yourself from everybody else who's interviewing for that same job. And to me, the way you do that is through preparation. And one of the things that you can do is if you're going to meet with a company, do your research. If it's a publicly traded company, it's very easy to find the research. You can go to that company's website. You can click on the Investor Relations tab. There will be a link for presentations, and these are the presentations they're making to the investor community, the analyst community. And within those presentations, they're going to talk about what's important to the company. They're going to talk about their strategy. They're going to talk about what really drives the success of the company. And if you can do your research and understand the drivers of what makes the company successful, and then when you walk into that interview, connect what you're going to do in that job that you're interviewing for, connect what you're going to do there to the company strategy.
Yes.
And if you do that, a lot of people don't, so you're going to separate yourself right there, but people will take notice when they understand that you're thinking about a big picture. You're not just thinking about this individual job, you're recognizing how your role fits into the bigger picture.
Outstanding. Well, I really appreciated you sharing that with the students today, because that's something that I think we miss. And for you and I that graduated from college maybe before Al Gore had invented the internet.
That's right.
So we were still in those early stages, and we didn't have these tools at our disposal that the students do today. And so whether they take advantage or leverage those is really up to them. And we do have so many tools that we can go to those company sites. We mentioned in class that we have that Bloomberg resource here that can really drill down and look at analyst reports on companies. So I think just encouraging students to use those resources that are at their disposal.
It's so important.
And be prepared. And it makes such an impression.
It really does. And as we talked, even if it's not a publicly traded company, go to the company's website. You can do a lot of research on just what, the company's history, what they do. And you can do a little bit of industry research. If you do that, I promise you're setting yourself apart from the rest of the pack.
Yes. The students today, they asked, I think you'd agree, they asked very good questions.
Great questions, yeah.
And they talked a little bit about that work-life balance, and for your company, for Regions, and you've been with Regions for 27 years.
Yes, hard to believe.
That is amazing in banking industry.
Nobody else wants me.
I doubt that. But it's, and I think in a lot of ways it says a lot for you. It also says a lot for the company, even though it too has gone through a lot of transition in that time. So we had spoken in class about the importance of fit and finding the right place and that balance of work and life. And I wonder if you could comment a little bit on that, about the company culture and work-life balance.
I'd be happy to. I think we were really talking about work-life balance and the culture of a company. And one of the things that I've been at the bank for 27 years. Which you don't stay around a place that long if you don't enjoy the culture of the company. And Regions has a great culture, and a lot of companies do. I've appreciated the culture at Regions, and I think the reason it's important is the discussion was important is as students and anybody is looking at a company as a place to work. I think it's important to really look at the culture of the company and see if it's a good fit for you. And that's, look, it's hard to do when you're first going through an interview. You don't really know the company that well, but I think it's important to do your research, maybe, to the extent that you can talk to other people that work for the company or whatever. I think it's important to do that research. But the other part of the conversation that we had was around culture and how it can impact a company's strategy, because your strategy really has to fit within the culture of the company. I think the line that I used was that culture will eat strategy for lunch. And what I mean by that is a company can have the best 3-year plan, 5-year plan, but if what they want to do does not fit within the culture of the company, that plan's never going to work.
Yeah.
So I just think culture is so important, and companies will from time to time go through culture changes, and that's something that takes a long time to do. Culture is not something that changes overnight.
Absolutely right. And you can't instantaneously hire your way into a new culture.
That's right.
You can make those determinations of what we need and what really fits our strategy, but it does take time.
It does take time. It does. I mean, you just think about it. Human nature, we tend to do things the same way over and over. If we have a bad habit, it takes a long time to break those habits. And so culture is the same way. If you're trying to change a culture, I mean, that's all about just human behavior, and it takes time to change the way you do things and change that culture.
Really does. It kind of struck me as you were talking about that you come into a culture, you have different types of individuals. Some have been there for 27 years, some have been there for 5 or 3, but they all kind of have their own ability or lack thereof to what you referred to as embracing change. And it sounded like, from your comments that you've successfully done that.
Mm-hmm.
You've really given those folks that were running the company an opportunity to affect it in a positive way. And maybe that sounds a little upside down for those of us that are serving good leaders. But to say, well, give them a chance,
Mm-hmm.
and I think maybe that's another way to say embrace change. But
I think so. Yeah. So I've been at the bank for 27 years, and I've worked for 4 banks. My friends would always say, "You're the only person I know that's worked for 4 banks, and your phone number never changed."
Yes.
So, in the banking industry, we've experienced consolidation, and I've been an example of that. The bank that I started with was bought by a bank that was bought by a bank that merged with a bank. So in each one of those scenarios, you're going from one bank to another, and they will do things differently. Just no 2 banks are going to do things the same way. And when that happens, you can react in one of 2 ways. Some people will say, I don't like change. I don't want to go through this, and we'll go and do something else, and that's fine. For me, the way I approached it was always, when a new bank, when we were acquired or merged with somebody else, trying to take the approach that, hey, look, maybe we didn't have it all figured out, and maybe there are some better ways to do this, and just keep an open mind, really embrace change. And what I found throughout those changes is that opportunity exists within change, and you just have to be looking for it and ready to accept it. So if you can do that, again, talking about standing out from the crowd, a lot of people you'll find are you've got a group that may be resisting change, and you've got those who are embracing it, and the ones who are embracing it are going to differentiate themselves from the other.
Certainly are. And it's kind of a way of, do we allow things that are the unknown, I suppose, of the stress of change to pull us under,
Right.
or do we take advantage of that and kind of ride that wave?
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely. I thought today another opportunity that we had, and in the midst of not welcome change, but certainly something that's struck our economy here in this first quarter of 2020, has been the coronavirus. And talk a little bit about what your view is of how this may play out, and is that something that your institution are thinking about at this point in terms of whether that deals with interest rates or the economy in general? What are your thoughts on that at this point?
Yeah, it's it's certainly I'll say I don't know quite what to think with this. I'm not sure anybody does at this point. Yes, we're making preparations for it. We're communicating with employees around awareness. Certainly travel awareness.
Certainly.
And we need to be mindful of that. When you see something like this, I mean, clearly we would expect this to impact the economy. We don't know yet how that's going to look with the way trade has been restricted over this last month and a half. You have to assume this is going to impact the first quarter. What we don't know is once this passes, and it will, what does the recovery look like, and do we have a snapback? So, we have some examples in the past 10, 15 years with SARS and Ebola and things that have struck. And, what we don't know is if what we're in the midst of right now is like what we saw before, where it was absolutely important that we deal with it. It was very intense. But it didn't last forever, and we got past those, and we're going to get past this one. We just don't know the extent to which that's going to impact the economy. So I I don't have a crystal ball on this one. I wish I did, but it is unnerving, I know, for a lot of people. Certainly,
Yes.
there's been a lot of people getting sick, and there have been fatalities, and we regret that, and
Yeah.
there's been a big impact on the economy. But I do think this is something we'll get through.
I agree with that. It is one of those, there's been a lot of discussion among economists, bankers included, about whether this recovery would be a V-shape, or might it be a little more protracted beyond this quarter. And so many of the economies around the world have been a bit more sluggish than the American economy, that has been outstanding for the past several years. And so, to what extent, might this impact that, and what the duration is. I would agree with you that we're still waiting to see how that'll play out.
Yeah.
And taking action as needed.
That's right.
Economically and obviously with the CDC and others health-wise.
Right.
For what we need to do as a first priority. But, well, thank you for that. I think it was just an opportunity for us to discuss that a little bit, because it's something that bankers, your line of work, and
It's a very relevant topic right now.
It really is.
Yes, yeah. We'll have, we have clients that absolutely touch trade, whether they're in the transportation, the trucking business,
Yes.
Wholesale, bringing product in from China.
Right.
And we're going to feel it.
We will feel
we
it.
have not, I don't know that they've quite felt it yet, but I think it's coming. So I
Yes.
think we're going to have to deal with it.
And that's a big part of it. And it is another example of how interdependent we are across the globe with supply chains and logistics, that really are, when they're disrupted, it has a real effect on the entire world.
It absolutely does.
It's not isolated, much like a virus itself, that what's going on in one country affects the others.
Right.
And we're truly a global economy.
Yes, we are.
So, well, truly appreciate the time that you spent with us today, for being with us and really being part of what we're doing at Tech, really trying to provide opportunities for students to be prepared. What we call it is career ready, and to have a penchant for problem solving, and hopefully the product that we provide, we're in an interesting business ourselves with our students are both our customers and they're our product.
Exactly.
And we want to provide the very best to you and regions, and anything that we can do to make that better, please let us know. And thank you for your partnership and for your support of so many of our programs.
It was absolutely my pleasure. I thoroughly enjoyed talking with the class. We had some great questions today. You've got some really bright students that no doubt will be very successful in their next step. So you're doing great work, and I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.